Diddy's empire is crumbling before our eyes. New accusations, shocking images, and a possible involvement of Jay-Z can turn this scandal into the greatest in music history. What is behind this web of crimes and secrets? And why would you be desperate for an agreement? Lawyer Tony Busby, known for his performance in cases of great repercussion, filed a new process against Sean Diddy Combs. This recently registered lawsuit has new allegations against the rapper and magnate of music, as well as bringing out additional evidence that can strengthen existing accusations. According to the information released, this new process differs from the previous ones by containing security images that allegedly prove the active participation of Diddy and his team in illicit acts. The exact content of these filming has not yet been completely revealed, but sources close to the case indicates that they are crucial for federal investigation in progress. In addition, one of the most impactful aspects of this new action is the implication of members of the current Diddy security team as co-conspiring. The accusations suggest that these individuals not only witnessed the reported acts, but actively acted to cover up or facilitate the businessman's actions. This detail makes the situation even more delicate to the rapper, as the federal attorney's office would be working to officially appoint those involved in the criminal plot. The information indicates that the inclusion of security guards as co-defendants can lead to a domino effect within the case. Experts point out that, in view of the possibility of facing severe criminal proceedings, some of these involved may choose to collaborate with the authorities to reduce their penalties, which could result in even more harmful revelations to Diddy. With this new turnaround in the process, it is evident that the investigation against the entrepreneur is increasingly deepening, and that the authorities have a considerable volume of evidence to support the accusations. It remains to be seen how Diddy's defense will react to this legal climb and what will be the impact of this new complaint on its already shaken reputation. Sean's situation, Diddy Combs, has become increasingly delicate as new evidence arises and the siege of the authorities closes. Given the severity of the accusations and the growing amount of evidence, reports arose that the music tycoon would be negotiating an award-winning denunciation agreement with federal promoters. According to sources close to the case, Diddy would be considering a court agreement to reduce his sentence, but faces a complicated dilemma. For any such negotiation to be successful, it would need to provide valuable and unpublished information to the authorities. Algo that experts, it may be difficult, as their properties have recently been the target of search and seizure warrants. With the amount of evidence that investigators already have, there is a question about what Diddy could still offer to get a favorable agreement. Another factor that would be worrying Diddy is the risk of becoming an even greater target in reporting more powerful figures in the industry. There are speculation that the entrepreneur fears suffering the so-called EPS Stein special, in reference to Jeffrey Epstein, who died under controversial circumstances after his arrest for sexual crimes. If Diddy really seeks an agreement, he would have to deliver someone even more influential than himself, which could endanger him. In addition to the attempt, according to the authorities, there are also rumors that Diddy would be seeking presidential forgiveness. Some sources claim that he would be contacting former President Donald Trump, hoping to obtain a pardon if Trump returns to the presidency in 2025. However, experts consider this possibility not feasible, as the relationship between the two does not seem to be close enough to justify such intervention. Meanwhile, the federal government continues to advance in the case. It was reported that prosecutors have until March 17th to appoint the co-conspiring, co-defendants, and others involved in the investigation. This deadline may be a watershed for Diddy's situation, as there is evidence that, after that date, new formal accusations are made and more people decide to collaborate with the authorities to avoid severe convictions. Given this scenario, Diddy's defense will need to act with extreme caution. Any poorly calculated movement can result in an even heavier sentence, leaving the entrepreneur with no legal way out. The repercussion of the accusations against Sean Diddy Combs reached a new level with the release of the documentary The Fall of Diddy, available on the HBO Max platform. The documentary features detailed reports of victims and former collaborators, exposing alleged crimes and abusive behaviors of the music tycoon over the years. Among the most impactful aspects of production we highlight the testimony of several victims who now feel safe to tell their stories. Some of these people had already denounced Diddy publicly, but others had never spoken before. Reports are considered shocking and disturbing, showing a pattern of abuse that was supposed to be repeated for decades, always covered by a protection network within the music industry. Production also has evidence that corroborates the accusations, including documents, images, and testimonials of witnesses that reinforce the case against Diddy. For many viewers, this material makes it even harder for the entrepreneur to deny his involvement in the crimes he is being accused. In addition, legal analysts indicate that the documentary can influence public judgment on Diddy, creating even more pressure on their defense. In cases of great repercussion, public opinion may affect legal decisions indirectly, especially if witnesses are seen as credible and if evidence is considered blunt. Another point of great relevance is the impact that the fall of Diddy can have on future judgment witnesses. Some of the victims who appear in the documentary are expected to formally testify in court. If this happens, the credibility of the documentary may be reflected in the jury acceptance of his statements, increasing the chances of a conviction. For lawyer Tony Busby, who leads some of the lawsuits against Diddy, the documentary display may further strengthen civil and criminal cases. Diddy's defense, on the other hand, tries to disbelief the allegations, arguing that there is a financial and media interest behind the accusations. However, given the growing volume of evidence and testimonies, this line of argument seems increasingly fragile. With the release of the documentary, the name of Diddy, who was already wrapped in controversy, suffers a new blow to his reputation. The media exposure of the accusations can even make any attempt to rehabilitate their public image even more difficult. Given this scenario, it remains to be seen how Diddy's defense will try to react to this new wave of revelations, and whether the documentary can influence future legal actions against the rapper and entrepreneur. As the case against Sean Diddy Combs unfolds, rumors arise that Jay-Z and his company, Roc Nation, may be the next targets of a great revelation. Lawyer Tony Busby, who leads the accusations against Diddy, would have an explosive process involving Jay-Z, which is due to be released in the next 48 hours. The speculation around the possible process indicates that he could deeply shake her Jay-Z's reputation, exposing details that were until then hidden from the public. Busby is known for his strategic approach, often holding crucial information to the right time to maximize it on the legal and media impact. So far, there is no concrete information about the content of the prosecution against Jay-Z, but sources close to the case suggest that the complaint may be linked to the same kind of crimes and abuse that have been associated with Diddy. If this is true, the scandal can become even bigger, reaching other prominent figures in the music industry and possibly revealing a wider network of corruption and abuse. This possibility has already generated speculation about how Jay-Z would react if it was indeed implicated. Unlike Diddy, who has been the target of multiple direct accusations, Jay-Z has always had a carefully built image, being seen as a successful entrepreneur and a respected figure inside and outside the music. However, if the case is based on it, this may represent the biggest challenge of your career. Another important point is the impact this would have on Roc Nation, its entertainment and talent management company. If Jay-Z is indeed involved in this scandal, artists and executives associated with Roc Nation may begin to distance themselves to preserve their own reputations. The big question now is whether Busby's process will actually be revealed in the next 48 hours, and if so, what will be its real impact on the world of music and public opinion. If the accusations are as serious as speculated, Jay-Z could face intense scrutiny, similar to what Diddy is currently passing. It remains to wait for the developments and see to what extent this scandal can expand, reaching new figures and further exposing the dark behind the scenes of the music industry. Among the new accusations against Sean Diddy Combs, one of the most impactful cases involves a rapper aspiring, identified in court documents such as John Doe. The incident would have occurred in 2015 when John Donut was rising in the music scene and seeking opportunities to consolidate his career. At the time, John Doe was invited to perform as an opening act at an event in Los Angeles, where several artists and businessmen would be present. Diddy, who was not originally scheduled to perform, attended the event allegedly because her label, Bad Boy Records, was interested in performance. During the night, John Doerr was approached by a Diddy member who informed him that the businessman was watching his presentation and that if he did well, he could have the opportunity to sign a contract with the label. The possibility of working with such an influential figure was viewed by the young musician as a great opportunity for professional ascension. After the show, John Doe was invited to an after-party in the same place. This type of event is common in the music industry and is usually an environment where artists have a chance to do networking and strengthen ties with executives and producers. However, what should be a celebration night has become a nightmare. During the party, Diddy and his team made a large amount of alcohol and illicit substances available to the guests. At one point in the evening, a Diddy member handed over to John Donut an alcohol, stating that he had been sent by the music tycoon himself. After consuming it, John Donut began to lose consciousness and realized that he had been drugged. From that moment on, John Donut describes lapses of conscience, in which he witnessed Diddy and his entourage involved in sexual acts, some of which seemed to involve unconscious or professional people hired for the event. At one point, he recovered his consciousness briefly and realized that Diddy was touching his private parts. He also believes that during his state of unconsciousness, Diddy has committed even more serious acts against him. Upon noticing the severity of the situation, John Doe tried to resist, but was contained by the Diddy security team. Feeling threatened and dead-end, he pretended to be collaborating to avoid more violence. To escape, he used a pretext. He said he needed water and wanted to go to the bathroom. This strategy allowed him to leave the environment controlled by Diddy and his team. Upon arriving at the bathroom, John Doe found an opportunity to escape the scene. He managed to reach the parking lot, get in his car, and leave the club before any of the security guards could stop him. The consequences of this event were devastating for John Doe. He reports having suffered serious psychological trauma and that his passion for music has been destroyed. The emotional impact of abuse made him abandon his dreams of pursuing a career in the music industry. In addition, due to the influence and power of Diddy, John Donia Ficia was reprisal, which took him years to denounce what happened. Now, years later, with the advancement of investigations and the emergence of more victims denouncing similar cases, John Doe decided to file a formal process against Diddy. His lawyer, Tony Busby, said this case is part of a behavioral pattern that has been repeated for years within the Diddy circle. John Donut's complaint raises even deeper questions about the level of protection and cover up that Diddy has had over the years. The existence of security guards and associates that facilitated or ignored abuses can take others from the Magnata team to be processed criminally as co-conspiring. Now, with the case officially open and under investigation, it remains to be seen how the court will treat this new accusation and what other revelations may arise in the coming weeks. The new accusations against Sean Diddy Combs had a massive repercussion, not only in the legal environment, but also in the entertainment industry and public opinion. The seriousness of the complaints, the volume of processes, and the constant revelations have directly affected the image of the music tycoon, which was previously seen as one of the most influential entrepreneurs in the sector. Since the first charges have surfaced, Diddy has faced a growing boycott of brands, business partners, and even old allies. Some companies that had contracts with him, such as beverage brands and event sponsors, began to break business relations to avoid being associated with the scandal. This movement directly affects Diddy's fortune in business, which depended largely on strategic partnerships. In addition to the financial impact, influential industry figures have begun to distance themselves publicly from Diddy. Artists who once collaborated with him avoid mentioning his name or demonstrating support to the victims. This removal became evident especially after the release of the documentary The Fall of Diddy, in which former collaborators and victims report disturbing details of their backstage conduct. In the legal environment, lawyers and experts point out that the growing volume of processes can create a domino effect. With new victims feeling encouraged to report, the number of actions against Diddy can increase exponentially. Tony Busby, a lawyer who leads part of the lawsuits, has publicly stated that he has at least 10 more actions ready to be formalized against the entrepreneur. Another relevant factor is that, with the advance of federal investigation, there are chances that key witnesses decide to collaborate with the authorities in exchange for reduction of penalty or immunity. If you have Diddy's employees, or members, the case may become even more compromising for him. From a media point of view, the press continues to cover the case intensely, and each new revelation generates a great online repercussion. Users on social networks have pressured authorities to quickly advance investigations and ensure that Diddy be held in court. The scandal has become one of the most talked about subjects in recent months, expanding the wear and tear of the businessman's image. In the legal scenario, the next few days will be decisive. The federal government has already indicated that it has until March 17th to formally appoint co-conspiring, co-defendants, and possible accomplices of the tycoon. This deadline may be crucial to define who will be implied the most in the case and which new accusations may arise. Diddy, in turn, has adopted a stance of silence, trying to avoid public statements that may further undermine his situation. His defense has argued that the accusations are part of a media plot to destroy his career and image, but so far has not presented concrete evidence that supports this thesis. With the unfolding of the case, the possibilities for Diddy become increasingly limited. If new witnesses arise and evidence is strengthened, your condemnation may only be a matter of time. Now we have to wait for the investigations and the possible new processes that may emerge in the coming days. With the advancement of investigations and the growing number of accusations, Sean Diddy Combs' situation becomes increasingly delicate. The new revelations, coupled with lawsuits and public pressure, indicate that the musician of music can face the most severe consequences of his career. The next few days will be crucial for the proceeding of the case. The deadline until March 17th for the official appointment of co-conspiring and co-reans can bring new unexpected developments, further expanding the scandal. If influential industry figures are implicated, the investigation can expand beyond Diddy, reaching other entrepreneurs, artists, and executives in the music industry. The possibility of new victims arising also cannot be discarded. The pattern of behavior described in processes indicates that the number of cases can be much higher than revealed so far. If more people decide to speak, the weight of the accusations can make Diddy's defense unsustainable, forcing him to seek a court agreement or face a long criminal case. In addition, speculation about a possible Jay-Z connection to the scandal adds even more tension to the scenario. If the alleged process against the rapper is disclosed as expected, the music industry may suffer one of the greatest credibility crises in its history. Depending on the severity of revelations, artists, record labels, and other influential figures may begin to be investigated, exposing an even larger network of abuse and cover-up. From a media point of view, the case coverage remains intense. The exhibition of the documentary The Fall of Diddy at HBO Max accentuated public scrutiny about the entrepreneur, making any attempt to recover his image difficult. Big brands have already moved away from Diddy's name, and his presence in the industry is practically annulled at this time. Mogan's defense, in turn, seems increasingly weakened. Diddy's silence, combined with the absence of concrete evidence to counter the accusations, makes it difficult for his lawyers to support the narrative that he is the victim of a plot. Experts point out that if he does not present a solid legal strategy soon, his conviction may only be a matter of time. Given this scenario, the next steps of the investigation and the new processes that may arise in the coming days will define Diddy's future and possibly other names in the music industry. Now it remains to be seen what the next revelations will be and how far this scandal can come.